Hello there. On this channel we review movies and today's film is Knox Goes Away. It's a thriller with a lot of crime drama elements to it. The story follows an aging hitman called John Knox. Knox discovers that he's got a condition that causes dementia to set in rapidly, and gets one last chance to be in his estranged son's life by helping him cover up a murder. The problem is, his faculties are failing him quickly and the police are closing in. Gregory Poirier wrote the story and Michael Keaton directed the film, which stars Michael Keaton as John Knox, James Marsden as Miles Knox, and Suzie Nakamura as Detective Ikari. If you're new to the channel, how we do things here is that I cover the positives from the film, then the negatives, and finally I give some personal thoughts about it before rating and wrapping things up. Now to begin. The story is a clever slow burn that's filled with suspense and emotion. The emotion comes from Knox saying goodbye to his loved ones. There's a bittersweet vibe that comes with a few regrets, some pain, and a feeling of closure. The suspense comes from his mission to cover up his son's murder and whether or not he'll be able to pull it off. He has Detective Ikari and her team trying to catch him, his condition is progressing rapidly, and Annie, his mistress, shows up in the final hour to throw him a curveball. It's a tense romp that will have you glued to the screen. The characters are a little bit simple, but the actors who play them bring a lot of charisma and big emotions to their roles. There's Al Pacino playing Knox's longtime friend who helps him with his condition, James Marsden as his honest son who gets caught up during a bad situation, and Suzie Nakamura playing a wisecracking, intelligent investigator. Then at the center of it all is Michael Keaton playing a hard-ass who's struggling with an extreme condition. He plays the menacing convict well, but really shines when it comes to playing out his symptoms and when dealing with his character's emotional journey. The goodbyes are never simple, but he manages to pack a lot of emotion into his physical performance. So much so that you don't even need to hear what he's saying to know how he feels. The visual journey is also fairly well done. The camera work is clean, it has a variety of normal sets that work well for the story, and they throw in a lot of solid close-ups of the actors that capture some good emotion. They also did a good job of the visual distortion that comes with Knox's memory lapses. They would move him around the room or black out the screen for a blip, sometimes the room would even spin. It created a good sense of visual confusion that worked well for letting the audience know when Knox's condition was flaring up, and it made keeping track of its progression easy. Okay, onto the bad parts of the film, of which there aren't many. It mostly comes down to the soundtrack and the lack of standout visuals in the film. Outside of the story, the film has very little in the way of flavor, and this is especially noticeable in the visuals and the music. Every part of the journey takes place in mundane settings that are done up well, but which look very normal. You expect movies to have a bit of flair for the dramatic, and this film had none of it. They have end-of-the-world conversations in their dining rooms and shootouts in the bathroom. It's a little anticlimactic. The music they have behind it is even worse. There's one bluesy trumpet song that plays during the transitions or whenever Knox is alone at night, a few tension tracks that play during his outings, and a couple of emotional pieces for the big conversations. Their quiet songs tend to be quite generic and forgettable, and they don't add much in the way of flavor. Just a bit of melancholy. The story doesn't really need a flashy soundtrack or visuals, but it would have made the film a bit more memorable if it had them. There's also one action sequence that was a little bit silly. It had old man Keaton beating up 3 young thugs and overpowering one of them with a phone book. It was a bit out of character, and it would have been better if he had just outsmarted them instead. It was more his style. Personally, I enjoyed the film, but thought it was a bit simple. There's a lot of good dramatic moments coming from the dementia storyline, and his plan is pretty clever and interesting to watch unfold. I'm also a sucker for Michael Keaton and James Marsden. I find both of them to be great actors, and they didn't disappoint here at all. They were on top of their game. The rest of the cast was surprisingly good as well. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 6 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye!